for the characters. So we'll roll into the studio, and those guys will just ad lib up a storm. So things like Nikolai's wives, we never wrote anything about that. That's just Fred Tatasciore sort of ad libbing on set. And I think it was maybe not till Ascension that we decided we needed to keep track. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's the hardest part about writing the dialogue for these guys. I've been doing Nikolai for the past couple maps now. The hardest part about writing it isn't what he's going to sound like, because at this point I know Nikolai so well. I've been, we've been playing with him, and I've been writing him for a couple times now. So it's easy. He gets a new weapon with a bunch of buttons, and he's just like, oh, this is too confusing. I'm drunk. He just says something, stupid like that. The hard part is that we've got these categories that we've had these characters saying since Shino Numa, Zombie Swamp, and Sumph. And hey, yeah, right there.
There it is. Yep.
And we've had categories that have remained consistent since that first map. Usually each category has about 5 different line variations. So when it comes time to writing for Moon, I sat down, I'd be doing lines for Nikolai and be like, this is a great line. Oh no, wait, we already said that one in Swamp, or I said it in Darice. So we've already written these lines 35 times, and the trouble, and the hard part is I've got to write 5 more, just as hopefully funny as these other ones that I've already written 35 times.
Right.
That's where the real challenge comes in.
So writing. It is hard work.
Yeah, but again, like Brian was saying, just you get to the studio with Fred and Nolan and Tom and Steve, and these guys know the characters just as well as we do. So they'll be reading a line and they'll go, I think Rick Toffin would say it this way, and we're like, yeah, it's all say it that way. Just go off, just do it. And it's it's really a collaboration between us and them. It's not us writing lines and saying you guys have got to say it this way. They are really invested in the characters as well. So,
well, can you give me a little insight into when does that happen? Is that towards the beginning of the map, the creation process? Is laying down the tracks towards the end, somewhere in the middle?
I mean, usually we don't have a whole lot of time to make these maps, so it's all happening simultaneously. So
sometimes
we used
as little as 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we used to actually record temp dialogue and test everything, but the truth is we just don't have time to do it. So we'll go away and we'll write lines the second we find out what the map features are. And there's times when map features are cut or they get changed or whatever, and the lines don't work anymore, so we just have to cut line categories. So, it definitely happens at the beginning, and we sort of, I don't know, maybe we probably put the lines in maybe the last week of the project, so we don't even know what it's all going to sound like or anything until, right at the very end.
Yeah, but just to give you guys an idea, I think each map has anywhere from 400 to 500 lines of dialogue per character. So we write that every time.
Character.
I think Moon had...
Yeah, Moon was over 2,300 with the story, dialogue, and everything. So it's gotten really big. I mean, to put that in perspective, a single player level might have 300-400. So it's gotten to be quite a bit.
But just think about where Zombies has come from. Nocturne Toten, where there was no dialogue, and now here we are, we're writing thousands of lines of dialogue. It's pretty mind-boggling.
Not only thousands of lines of dialogue, but then you got to figure out how it sound. What would a zombie sound like on the moon?
That was fun.
What was your inspiration for that?
Well, the first thing I did, because the thing I was most nervous about was, and I knew that there were going to be people talking about it. It's like, first of all, when you're on the moon, you're outside, there's going to be no sound.
There's no sound, right.
But we can't really do that, because then that'll break the game. So the first thing I did
There's also no zombies.
Yeah, there's also no
as
zombies.
Far as we know. As far as we know.
The zombies, make sense. But no, so the first thing I did, the first sound design task that I did was I made sure that every airless environment had no sound, so we could start playing with it right away. And I was nervous. I did that, and we had environments that had air that were full sound, and I was like, Jimmy's going to come back to me, and he's going to go, I've been playing, and this is terrible. I can't hear anything. Zombies are coming right up me. But instead, he comes in my office one day and goes, dude, I was outside, and I turned a corner, and there's a fucking zombie right in my face. I didn't see him anywhere. It's just creepy. And apparently it just worked out really well.
Worked out well.
It was just scary, yeah.
Just like that.
Perfect.
Actually, he's
rendition.
right. And honestly, in the moon, because we have no sound or muffled sound, I think the anxiety of the player, myself included, just goes through the roof. You can't tell where they're coming from anymore. And it does harken back actually to the original days of Zombies, where it's like you'd have these moments where you would turn and he's right here already. Like, it's just scary. It reminds me of those days. It's really nice.
I want to talk about the character creation. Where does the inspiration come for some of the characters? You've watched some of the older zombie type movies and kind of you look at that. But I mean, where do you think about, okay, this is going to make a great zombie, like when you're out and about?
Characters like the playable characters?
Yeah.
Well, that one's actually pretty easy. The playable characters are who they are because we don't have cutscenes to explain who they are. So we came up with the most basic stereotypes possible. So the second that somebody hears 2 or 3 lines, they're like, okay, I'm the drunk Russian, I get it.
Right.
And then, over time, we've been able to evolve them a little bit and make them, cooler and more funny. But originally, there was just literally no choice. It was like, how do you make a character that somebody's going to get without any introduction whatsoever, And, one of the rules on the story side is we can't touch core gameplay. We will never stop the zombie spawns. We will never do a cutscene. Like, everything we do has to happen within that parameter, So the stereotypes are the only way we could do that.
And about the zombies themselves, I mean, how do you keep iterating them and making them more zombie scary?
Well, I mean, I think our fans could probably tell us better about how the zombies have evolved, changed, and why they are on any given map. But they're actually one part we want to just see cool, awesome, shredded flesh, and then they're really supposed to tell part of the story of the map. They're a key component to explain things, why, where, and so they really kind of follow the map progression as well.
We talked about the characters. I want to talk about the soundtrack. Tell me the background of the soundtrack and what was the inspiration for that?
Well, the soundtrack was actually originally just a guitar riff from Nacht der Untoten, where we wanted to put something cool sounding when you die. And when it shipped, it was actually Brian who suggested that we turn it into a whole song. And
my best impression.
I told him I didn't think it was possible, but then he said I had to do it. So that's
the worst thing you could say.
Yeah, exactly.
Challenge accepted.
Right. Yeah, done.
We just wanted to see if we could actually produce something out of it. We had a little bit of time,
So,
and there was no reason to do it other than, hey, let's see if this.
Why not? Right?
It sounds cool, right?
So I went and expensed the beer and whiskey budget, and then went home, wrote something, and then threw it in.
And zombie it.
And I think that's how it happened. Yeah.
We're gonna get up. I want to see if we can get questions queued up in just a minute. I got a couple more questions, but if you have a question, I don't know where the floor mic is. Anywhere? Is there a floor mic out there someplace? Hopefully. All right, we'll get the floor mic someplace. But while we figure out the floor mic, I want to talk to you guys, each one. What is the biggest challenge in creating a zombie level? Whether it's music, whether it's audio, whether it's gameplay. What is the one thing that each of you thinks about and is the biggest challenge as you go into each project?
I mean, all the way from what we're going to do, like starting from an idea of what kind of zombie map we're going to do, to coming up with features that fit that map, fit the story, and really just kind of tie all together. And then again, going back to that core idea of not breaking the game, not making it something that's, completely exploitable, allowing for players to kind of get around some of our rules, but at the end of the day, still get killed by zombies. And making sure that all kind of starts and finishes that way. That's a pretty big challenge.
Yeah, for me, it's just trying to figure out what story elements we want to wrap up, what new things do we want to start, and what's going to be exciting and fun for the community, and also partly the Easter egg design. We have a team of people that actually we've built since the Ascension map to sort of flesh that stuff out. But it's really challenging to make them, fun but difficult, and so it's always a concern when we start off that we want to, make something cool with it.
Riza, as the zombie producer, what about you? Biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is the one we set for ourselves, which is trying to outdo our previous maps. Try to impress our fans, and every time they expect something, we need to come up with something much bigger. That's pretty much how we ended up on the moon, because, as you can see here, the moon used to be called Paris. It actually was a map set in Paris, and as we were developing it, we were thinking, well, we can't really end up the whole zombie thing in France. Let's be serious about it. Let's go in space. Let's put this on the moon, and that took like 5 seconds before we decided that was a great idea, and we did it. But that's a challenge. It's really every time come up with something bigger that still works with the core gameplay, but that impresses our fans.
Great.
Yeah, biggest challenge sound-wise is just making sure that, with new zombie types, to make sure that, like I said before, that you can tell which one is coming, where they're coming from. Distances are there. It's, since these maps kept getting bigger and bigger, it was about how do we make sure that you can tell what's going on. And then, since I do some of the writing, that's probably my most stressful part is when I start seeing feedback and what people say, because, I write these lines and I'm like, well, I think that's funny. I guess when I'm in my office by myself, making myself laugh, I guess. But, when it actually gets out there, if people actually do find them funny, that's when I'm like, oh, thank God they like that line.
Because you never know. What about you?
Well, as far as the soundtrack goes, the most challenging thing is probably trying to work the story into a lyrics of the song within a very short time frame. And then we have to fly Elena Sigmund out to sing the lyrics, and it's usually the first time she's ever seen them or heard them is when she gets into LA, and then we have a day or two, and Colin helps me record, and so it's just, you never know if it's going to work out, and it's terrifying. Really good.
We're going to get to the questions in just a minute, but first, last thing, real quickly from the panel here, I want to ask you, what is your favorite thing about zombies? What's your one favorite thing?
Community. I mean, it's awesome seeing how many people enjoy it and talk about it, and it's just amazing to see that we could be a part of something so cool.
Zombie trains. I love zombie trains. I love when I'm down and my buddy runs across like this and he's followed by hundreds of zombies and I'm just laughing that I'm dying. I think laughing that I'm suffering and dying is great, and that's one of my favorite. And the fans, of course, for sure.
Same answer. Favorite thing, these guys here.
Right here.
Yeah. My favorite thing is Richtofen.
Okay.
Yeah. Specifically, I've got a favorite line I just have to say real quick, and I'm going to do a terrible Richtofen impression. This is my favorite line. It's in Doris when you buy a shotgun, and he says, "Oh, this makes them explode all over my face, all over my face." I love that line.
All right.
Of course, the community, we got Carbon Fiber and Boasty and Peckler and all the guys down here. But I love playing zombies with Colin because I don't revive him. I just teabag him when he goes down. And I just love trolling, especially Colin.
All right, so we heard that community is really important. So let's turn the tables around. Robert, you got the microphone there. If you could just say your name, where you're from, and what your question is, please. Speak up.
My name is Dan from Massachusetts. And my question is, what goes into the process of the creation of the new wonder weapons for each of the new maps?
Wow. The new weapons, they fall under the same category as everything, which is fun. They have to be fun. We look for things we haven't done, or sometimes in maybe the case of Moon, we look for something that can help us bring back something people loved and give something new. And we definitely, at the end of the day, we just want to see things go boop. It's the fun, it's the, so that's how we develop them. We start with, we need a new weapon. What do we want to do at the end of it? What do we want the player's experience to be? And do we want them to laugh, be scared, both? So that's really kind of the onset of it.
Great, thank you.
Hello, I'm Juhani from Finland, Scandinavia.
Nice, that's no.
Hi. I'd love to see you guys tackle a zombie western map at some point, like, North versus South, or General Custer's men versus zombie Indians. Oh. I'd love to see that. I'd pay for that. But my question regards, having played these maps all the way from Nachter und Toten, I always think that, are you guys ever going to change the fact that you always die in these maps? And I thought, it would be so great to survive, but would that be too much? Would that tamper too much with the franchise if you could actually survive the game, and could you be rewarded for this? I know this is a wild idea. Sorry.
I think this goes back to the core of the game, and we really like people knowing how desperate your situation is. It's about you managing your bullets, your economy, and at the end of the day, you're gonna die. It's just when. So, are you sure you can't beat some levels? I don't know,
Real quick, just that question brought up something that it's been a challenge that we've been grappling with since we started telling a story in Zombies. Is that you're right? This is a mode where you always die at the end, and it's round